Quick question. If you could replace the MC from any manga or anime, who would you choose? Keep in mind that by doing so, you would gain everything the MC has: powers, friends, and enemies. Let me know your answer in the comments below. Anyway, on to the video. To the feeble and oblivious humans, doom and destruction came without warning. With the destruction came the League, a cursed death game initiated by the supreme beings of the universe. As the dreadful game progressed, humanity gradually vanished, losing not only their lives, but also their home. The situation was dreadful. Human life was reduced to nothing more than garbage, easily disposed of. Despite all that, it was fine, as humanity was about to succeed. After endless suffering in the death game, they had finally reached the final round, the round to reverse everything, the round to get it all back. The scene switches to humanity's last savior. Despite his mangled body and the inferno of the battlefield, he stands resolute, his iron will palpable. In an Itachi-like move, he fires his attack, sending a telekinetic orb at the enemy. This attempt, however, ends pathetically, easily blocked by the enemy's barrier. With a maniacal grin, the enemy mocks him. He had been so close, but inevitably, this is where it ends. This sadistic bastard was Administrator J, the supreme being in charge of Area 2, aka Earth Sector, and more specifically Seoul, South Korea. Upon releasing his attack, humanity's last savior, the one person everything banked on, finally collapsed, the grave wounds taking their toll. Behind the fallen hero, a silhouette emerges, one equally as wounded as him. With an anguished shout, the survivor yells, telling the hero to get up. But, as expected, the dead don't reply. Administrator J, as if mocking their useless resistance, casually steps on the corpse of a fallen warrior. In his cocky voice, he explains the situation. A disruptive species that completes the League will be given the chance to reverse everything. This was a reward offered by the universe. Of course, it was rare for most species to seize that chance, even if it was so freely given. Actually, it was so rare that even for him, an administrator, it was the first time witnessing it directly. Ultimately, they had failed. Despite how far they had come, this was the limit of humanity's so-called saviors. Saying so, we finally get to see the true face of the universe, and it is terrifying. Contrary to what one might believe, the true manifestation of the universe was one of horror. A giant vertical pupil with a backdrop of galaxies squirming within. Admin J, as if awed by the dreadful sight, tells the survivor to rejoice. Despite their pathetic defeat, she should be grateful that the universe had its attention on them. If she had a dying wish, he'd grant it. Of course, it was solely for his amusement, so she shouldn't get cocky. The survivor, bearing through the pain, takes a moment to consider. Soon, however, her voice rings out, announcing her wish. She'd like a do-over, a chance to fight for their survival. Laughing mockingly at the outrageous request, Jay replies that it was out of his authority. Maybe the gods could fulfill her wish. Desperate, and without any more cards to play, the survivor collapses, all hope finally gone. Jay, like the sadistic bastard he is, casually turns and walks away, bidding farewell to the last survivor. Sword Star Jin Jaehee. As the Sword Star lay bloody, her life force fading, a system notification sounds, announcing the results of the round. It states that Round 8 had ended, the faction Vast Expanse and their monarch Kang Shion were destroyed. The current number of survivors was 1. That number, however, soon dropped to 0 as Jaehee also perished, likely due to her wounds. Just like that, the League failed, Earth was destroyed, and humanity's fate was concluded. That should have been the end, but in typical manhwa fashion, Jaehee startles awake, alerted by her alarm. She takes a moment lazing in bed before the grim reality finally dawns on her, causing her to jerk upright in a start. Gazing warily at her hands, her trophy table, and the messy room around her, she comes to a conclusion. This was her studio apartment. With a puzzled look, she wonders what the hell is going on. Her thoughts, however, are interrupted by a message alert. The Chad, Lee Hosung, had texted, asking if she was up. Jaehee, like a junkie craving a fix, reached for her phone, studying it intensely. She soon realizes that she is 10 years in the past, and, as expected, all her friends, the dear comrades she'd lost in the League, were also alive. Although surprising, there was no doubt about it. She had regressed 10 years. But how was this possible? The bastard Jay had said it was beyond his authority, so how was she there? Well, none of that mattered to her at the moment. If she was indeed back in the past, then it must mean the savior was still alive as well. There wasn't time to waste. Moves had to be made. Rocking her hat, she immediately left the house, her gaze resolute. If they were to survive, then she had to find Kang Shion. The League was a place that, no matter how many strong players you gathered, it would be useless as it heavily demanded faction warfare. To stand a chance at victory, it was necessary to involve the one player who came closest to achieving victory. The great monarch of vast expanse, Kang Shion. Running through the silent streets, the same streets that would soon be engulfed by carnage and chaos, Jaehee swore to find the hero. This time, she'd start with him from the beginning. We cut to a construction site where men are hard at work. Well, not all of them, as some bastards are chilling around gossiping. One of the men expresses his amazement at a young man's diligence. He remarks that nowadays, most kids would quit instantly when given the same workload. However, if he were to be frank, the kid was pathetically weak for a laborer. The weak laborer turns out to be Shion, the future savior of humanity. Right now, however, he is a temp worker hauling cheeks at a construction site. With his work done, he finally rests, amazing everyone by the sheer volume of the load he carried. The gossiping man turns to Shion, advising him to take it easy. If he continued like that, he'd only wear himself out. Shion, a respectful Chad, readily agrees, settling down for some well-needed rest. Addressing the MC, the old man asks about his schooling. Did he completely give up on that? He remarks that with his brain, he'd be able to enter a prestigious university easily. Shion casually replies that universities won't put food on his table. The old man, a bit bothered by the weight of his words, asks if he had any compelling reason to work so hard. Shion, with a calm gaze, replies that money is more than enough of a reason. He has to work hard so that his younger sibling can live more comfortably. Understanding his situation, the old man hands him an envelope. Inside was the day's wages. He'd even added a bit more for him. Shion, puzzled by the early pay, questions the old man. The latter replies that he had already done his part, so he should head home. Besides, it was his brother's birthday, so he had to make it back early. Addressing the puzzled Shion, the old gossip asks if he'd given some thought to the birthday gift. Shion replies that, of course, he has something in mind. We cut to the Onyx shopping mall, where an enthusiastic saleswoman is welcoming Shion. The MC, as casual as ever, replies that he is looking for a gift for his younger sibling. The woman, with some dollar signs in her eyes, immediately suggests a designer jacket, saying it would go great over the teen's school uniform. And since he is a handsome poppy, she'd throw in a 30% discount, giving it away for the fair price of $119,000. Shion, unswayed by the glazing, calmly considers the offer. If it was $120,000, then it meant an entire day's wage. That was hella expensive. If he bought the same jacket at the thrift shop where he got his windbreaker, he'd only pay $30,000, although he doubted his brother would like it. Buying the jacket meant he'd be tight on food and electricity bills for the whole month. Damn, bro's really going through it. Before he could decide, his phone rang, drawing his attention. On the other end of the line was his brother Junho, reminding him of his birthday and asking for some chicken. Of course, Junho understood money was tight, so if it wasn't possible, he'd be more than happy to eat his usual meals. Shion, smiling slightly at his brother's thoughtfulness, decides to make the purchase. The kid has only one birthday a year. He can afford to go all out. He promises to bring home some chicken, so Junho should hurry up and decide what kind he wants. As expected, the kid is delighted, thanking him wholeheartedly. Turning to the saleswoman, he expresses his interest in buying the jacket. Before he can finish speaking, however, the lady has already packaged the jacket. It's good to go. Even when he wants to count the money just to make sure it's all there, the lady swiftly snatches it from his hands, handing him the package and thanking him for his patronage. Damn, bitch, hold up. Let our boy think. Shion, a bit dazed by how fast things are going, calmly accepts the package. With a smile on his face, he remarks that this is the priciest purchase he's ever made. He's sure Junho will love it. His thoughts, however, are interrupted by a commotion in front of him. A bit puzzled, Shion gazes at the crowd, wondering what's going on. From the NPC's banter, he gathers that the elevators have apparently broken down, hence the commotion. This fact shocks Shion, as the elevators had been working perfectly fine when he used them a few minutes ago. In addition, the escalators are also down. The whole thing is bizarre. Not thinking too much about it, he decides to take the stairs. He has a birthday to get to and can't afford to be late. Making his way to the emergency exit, he's met with yet another bizarre situation. The stairs are also blocked, driving the people back with black, ominous smoke that seeps from within. Shion, not familiar with the usual horror tropes, casually nears the stairs, wanting to check them out for himself. He notes the ominous black smoke yet can't smell anything burning. Getting even closer, he peers into the darkness. To his surprise, however, an invisible force pushes him back, loudly slamming the door in his face. Shion, taken aback by the odd situation, wonders what the hell is going on. The NPC's banter around him doesn't help, as the bots are more focused on reporting tweets than actually solving the mystery they've found themselves in. In that horrible situation, the PA system comes on, bringing with it more bad news. It announces the closure of the mall. All customers are to leave immediately. As expected, the tense atmosphere heightens, with most wondering if there's a fire. After all, why else would they want everyone to leave? Shion, a bit more level-headed than the rest, notes that it isn't a fire. If it were, it would have been announced. They probably issued the order because of the mysterious black smoke. Moreover, there's something the bots haven't figured out yet. Not only are the elevators down, but also the phones. It isn't just the data, it's the whole service. This hints that the scope of the problem might extend beyond the mall. Just what the hell is going on? In the midst of the crowd's panic and crazed ramblings, a bizarre change occurs, one straight out of a video game. Blue system interfaces appear before their eyes, floating silently in front of them. Although they don't know it yet, this marked the beginning of the destruction, the doom that came without warning. The system notification, although sounding casual, shares some very dire and dreadful news. It announces that earthlings have been designated as a disrupting species in the cosmic ecosystem. In accordance with assembly rules, the population of earthlings must be reduced. All humans, except for the needed population, will be immediately disposed of as part of the annihilation policy. Of course, all of this is mandatory, and the pathetic earthlings have no right to refuse. Their only salvation is to prove their worth through the League. Only players are granted the qualification to participate in the League. As the dire situation settles in, gradually erasing the confusion that had plagued Shion before, a bitter scream sounds, drawing him from his thoughts. The source of the scream is a woman losing her shit. The other NPCs, equally shocked, curse the lady. She'd almost scared them to death. Before they can pile on more insults, the true reason for her scream becomes apparent, and ironically, it also becomes Shion's first impression of the League. Turning around, he faces what can only be described as Asura, a true hell on earth. Gazing back at them is a giant crimson eye, an eye attached to a colossal flying behemoth that resembles a whale. The beast, upon studying the inferior humans, quickly loses interest and flies away. As expected, in the face of such an incomprehensible situation, the people lose their shit, scrambling to escape. When confronted with chaos, humans always react the same way. Desperate self-preservation. As such, they clumsily flee, showing no concern for anything but themselves. Shion, caught up in the chaos, also panics. However, his reason for worry extends beyond self-preservation. Forget about the monsters rampaging outside. Forget about the people losing their shit. The only thing he cares about is that, currently, Junho is home all alone. When that grim realization sets in, he immediately springs into action. The elevator malfunctioned, and the power is out, so that's not an option. The stairs are also blocked by the black smoke, so that's definitely out as well. That leaves the escalator. Although it's off, he doesn't care about that for now. To his shock, however, the black smoke has already spread to the escalator, ruling that out as well. Cursing his luck, Shion wonders when the black smoke spread that far. As it turns out, the malfunction is the least of their worries. Turning around, he runs with as much speed as his body can handle. He is resolute to escape the mall no matter what. Offering a silent prayer, he begs Junho to wait for him. His brother will definitely come for him. We cut to the second basement level of the mall. Some of the NPCs who've escaped to this place are currently scared shitless. Before them are the green vile monsters we all know. Goblins. As the green bastards clap cheeks, we get some unfortunate info about the cursed game. Even before the League officially starts, 1/4 of the world's population has already been eliminated. As shocking as it might seem, the reason for that is simple, likely playing out in different parts of the world as if by design. Some are killed for not accepting their reality, others die because they are too scared to move, and others still die because they fail to outrun the foes. No matter what form it takes, the underlying reason is always the same: hesitation in a situation that requires immediate response. As the goblins chase down the fleeing bots, eager to add them to the dreadful statistics, a familiar figure stands resolute, the only one not affected by the chaos. Jaehee, finally arriving at the scene, notes that the first ironclad rule, the goat, Kang Shion, had taught his people was not to hesitate in the face of danger. If they want to live, they have to move without the slightest hesitation. If they don't want to be the ones who die, they have to let their bodies do the talking. Saying so, she blitzes past the goblins, slashing them to pieces. As she bathes the ground with the goblins' blood, shredding the vile creatures like their cheese, she offers a gentle wish to the goat. The current challenge might be dreadful to the present him, but it's nothing to the past him. It will take her approximately 3 hours to climb the stairs and get to him. So in that time, he has to survive. He has to show her the reason he's the goat. He has to show her that he can end that dreadful league. We cut back to the shopping mall, where Shion, the target of Jaehee's hopes and wishes, is currently making his way through the ominous building. After checking the last available door, it finally dawns on him that they are indeed trapped. There are no more places to check. The bots, in typical bot fashion, are still losing their shit, running around like headless chickens. With mob mentality in full effect and their reasoning hindered by panic, they run around the place looking for any way out. Shion, equally spooked and helpless, notes the futility of their actions. There was no way out of that hell. In the midst of their panic, the mob didn't notice the sudden arrival of a mysterious entity among them. The lady, who honestly stood out like a sore thumb, calmly listened to the bot's ramblings, a mocking grin plastered on her face. With a calm demeanor that had no place in that panicked hell, she casually clapped her hands, drawing the bot's attention. In a loud voice, she greeted the panicked crowd, expressing her wish to wrap things up quickly. This mysterious mommy was Administrator K, a member of the Cosmic Ecosystem Management Bureau. K, like an artist putting on a show, explained the dire situation to the crowd. Human beings were selected as a disruptive species and are therefore to be eliminated. She expressed her regret for their untimely demise, but honestly, I'm calling bullshit on that. That mocking smile on her lips isn't fooling anyone. A random bot, with the typical apocalypse dumb questions, asked Kay if the Bureau could let them go, even if just this once. Another one chimed in, chastising Kay for putting on such an act to scare them. She wasn't an employee of the mall, so what the hell was she doing? He further added that, at first glance, if you forgot about the dreadful situation, she looked like a crazy person. As expected, this insult hit deep, and Kay's demeanor instantly changed. Her wide smile shifted to a more insane one. I honestly don't know how people can be this oblivious in an apocalypse. Damn. Can't they read the room? Kay, gathering herself and suppressing the rage within, mocked the crowd. It seemed not everyone had the sense to recognize an opportunity when handed one. Snapping her fingers, she offered them a choice. They could either go to the green circle to accept the annihilation policy or go to the red circle to reject it. If they chose red, they would obviously forfeit their chance to participate in the league, so they should choose carefully. She gave them 5 minutes to decide. We learn that, as much as humanity is set to be annihilated, the Bureau can't just do as they please. There are still rules protecting the rights of doomed species. One example of this is the right to choose to participate in the league and, by extension, fight for survival. It's ironic how the same organization that demands your extinction is tied down by its own laws. Back to the bots. As expected, they all ran to the red circle. Rejecting the annihilation policy was a no-brainer for them. They wanted to get that shit over with so they could continue with their lives. To their surprise, however, a lone figure entered the green circle, eliciting a few shocked yelps. This figure, who chose the green circle and by extension supported the annihilation of his species, was none other than the hero, Shion. Shion, visibly tense from the death glares he was receiving, remarked that although he didn't fully understand nor agree with the policy, one thing was for certain. The green circle was their only hope of survival. Kay, delighted by his odd choice, grinned widely. From her predatory vibes, it was obvious this bitch was a sadist. The rest of the mob, not understanding our boy's choice, chastised him. What the hell did he think he was doing? How could he agree to such a crazy thing? If he knew what was good for him, he should hurry over to the red circle. Shion, however, stood resolute. He knew he'd made the right choice. The only question left was, what would happen next? As he pondered the next development, an eerie yet cheerful voice sounded in his head, greatly shocking him. This voice belonged to the sadistic Kay. She told him not to worry. No one but the two of them could hear the voice transmission. In her usual cheery tone, she proposed an offer to Shion. If he could get the majority of people in the red circle to switch sides, he'd be handsomely compensated. The quest had no penalties, so he needn't worry about that. Shion, taken aback by the sudden development, took a moment to consider. If all the strange things he'd seen so far were indeed real and he wasn't tripping on some mushrooms, then this was a matter of life and death. Turning to the mob, he shouted to get their attention. He urged them to switch sides if they wanted to live. As expected, the bots weren't having it. One bot, in particular, threw shade at our boy, telling him to cut the bullshit. Did he think this was a game? Or maybe a Netflix movie? He should shut the hell up and switch sides already. I swear there's always one asshole in times like this. I don't know if it's a trope in manhwa, but this shit really pisses me off. Shion, undeterred by the shade he just caught, continued his pleas. He explained to them that based on the pop-up info they received, humans were to be annihilated. This was a mandatory thing, one they couldn't reject. Moreover, the info specified a saving grace for humanity, one that would conserve the necessary population, the League. As things stood, what they were opposing wasn't the annihilation policy, but instead the League. In other words, by standing in the red circle, they were basically rejecting the chance to survive. His words cut deep, scaring the shit out of the mob. Among them, there were obviously people who'd already realized the world had changed, but due to doubt and maybe mob mentality, they found themselves in the red circle. If what Shion said was true, even if there was just a tiny chance of it being true, then they were gambling with their own lives. So, even as the clock wound down and only seconds were left to change their minds, the crowd still ran, switching sides from the red to green circle. Everyone except the rogue bastard and his girl switched sides. This development obviously delighted Shion, as not only did he convince them, but he'd also won the bet with Kay. Despite this achievement, however, he still felt uneasy. What would happen next? He really hoped everything Kay said was fake, because if not... Soon the time ran out, and the brutality of the death game finally became apparent to them. In a bloody twist, the bastard and his girl were blown the fuck up, their mangled corpses sent flying everywhere. The bots, understandably petrified by this development, freaked out, the grim reality of how close they were to death finally setting in. Shion, equally spooked, cursed. It seemed everything Kay said was indeed true. They were truly in hell. Kay, oblivious to his thoughts, approached Shion. In her usual cheery voice, she congratulated him for completing the task. Like a true psycho, she rubbed the spattered blood on his cheek, a maniacal smile on her lips. Keeping true to her word, she handed Shion his reward, a firearm. She informed him that firearms were prohibited before the League, but she was giving it to him as a special reward. The gun had 10 bullets left, so he should be careful with their usage, as the only way to get more was to purchase from them. Picking up on this detail, Shion asked if they would be selling items separately. Kay replied that he'd find out about it eventually, so there was no rush. Switching topics, she asked if he was good with guns, as shit was about to go down. True to her words, the whole building shook, rattling the mobs. Before they could process what the hell was going on, a blood-curdling scream sounded from the stairway. A man was running down the staircase, desperately begging to be saved. Before he could get far, however, a beast lunged at him, biting a chunk off his neck. As the beast finished off the man, ripping his body to shreds, Shion recalled the words of Kay. The League had already started. Speaking of the sadistic freak, she popped confetti for them, officially welcoming them to the death game. With a maniacal laugh, she urged them to accept reality and do their best in the tutorial. With that, she faded away, leaving them to their slaughter. The panicked crowd, desperate and without any means to resist, ran for their lives, their earlier confidence crumbling. In a sickening twist, the goblins hunted them down, shredding and feasting on their flesh like they were mere animals. Shion, now hiding behind a counter, cursed his luck. Who said the League was a chance for survival? This was clearly just an all-out slaughter, a massacre of the human species. Despite the dire situation, he was resolute not to die. He had to survive somehow and get to his brother. Unbeknownst to him, a goblin had sneaked up on him, its dagger poised to attack. With a sickening shriek, the little bastard charged at Shion, the shiny dagger at the ready. Shion, flustered by the sudden development, reacted instinctively, shielding himself from harm. Luckily for him, the light from his phone blinded the goblin, causing the bastard to trip. As it fell, the little fiend still got its lick, managing to slice Shion on the waist. Checking his wound, Shion noted that although it hurt, it wasn't that deep. However, there was no telling what would happen if he got hit again. He might actually die. Deciding to run away, he glanced back at the goblin, wanting to confirm its position. To his surprise, however, the little bastard was struggling on the floor, barely able to pick itself up. Shion hesitated. Should he run away? If he did that, the goblin would surely catch up to him. Then, should he fight? That was even more preposterous. How was he supposed to fight something like that? Finding no other solution, he cursed his luck. While others went on trips after college, here he was dealing with such shit. And on the day of his brother's birthday, no less. However, despite his doubts and terror, he knew he couldn't die there. He couldn't leave his brother all alone in that ruined world. Reaffirming his resolve, he lunged at the goblin, stabbing the cheeked-up bastard straight through the back. With an iron grip and a resolute gaze, he took his first life in the Cursed League.